Sade is the name of a singer, but also the name of the band that she fronts. So she was born in Nigeria and she's half Nigerian, but she was resident in the UK since the age of 4. After she finished her studies, she modelled briefly and then started a singing career. She formed the band in about 1984, made the first album, and it was hugely successful. So the band have existed since then, but they haven't done a lot of albums. The gaps between the albums seem to get bigger and bigger as time goes by. I think between the last two, it was like 8 or 10 years, something like that. But they still officially exist, but they have periods of hiatus. So they have had 6 albums in total to date. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the 4th album that the band Sade created, and it came in the wake of 3 very successful albums. Although it was successful, I don't think it's as well known, partly because I don't think there were any hit singles that came off it. I found it familiar when I was listening to it, and I think I know why. So most of my music collection has been digitized, certainly all my CDs and most of my vinyl, but I think I had a commercial cassette copy of this, and looking at the cover, that kind of rings a bell. It would be several years ago now, and I haven't dug into my cassettes for a very long time. But there were certainly songs that I recognised on here that I can't imagine I would have heard otherwise. So let's do some description. And the thing that's immediately obvious when listening to it is the bass. The bass lines. There's very deep and very prominent in the mix bass line, and I like it. So it's very much what I think of as groove based music. So there's drums, very kind of soul style R&B kind of drums, often with added percussion, so things like congas and tambourine shakers, etc. And it creates this kind of nice rolling feel that just kind of trips along, a bit like dance music does, but it's not really dance music, although you could dance to some of these tracks. So there's the bass, and it's often a repeating pattern. And on top of that, you've got smooth, breathy vocals from Sade. It's quite quietly sung, but close mic'd, so it's very prominent in the mix. You can definitely hear what she's singing. And then along with that, you've got generally keyboard chords, kind of paddy type things. And in some tracks, the bass line changes as the chords change, but in some of them it doesn't. So you get this feeling of the chords floating over the top, which again gives you that kind of rolling feel to things. And then the extra things that you've got, some instrumental ornamentation, things like sometimes the strings, sometimes the sax, there's bits of guitar, but it's got quite a sparse feel to it overall. Sometimes there's harmonised backing vocals as well, and there's one track where there's some really high, where she's singing high and loud, and it's been brought down in the mix, so it kind of sounds distant, and again shows that she's got a really good voice. She has a very recognisable voice. Now, the one thing I did notice was that I played it on headphones, I played some of it on the car, and then I played it on my laptop through the laptop speakers. And the laptop speakers really didn't do it justice. So the bass, which is the real bedrock of this, is very deep, it's very thick, and it's quite loud when you've got the equipment that will actually produce the bass, which is most equipment, to be fair. But my laptop speakers are quite tinny, and you could hardly hear the bass, and it changes the nature of the music considerably when you really can't hear the bass, and I don't think it's as good. It definitely needs that bass line to be up there. So Sade is obviously the singer as well as the name of the band. And Sade herself was, I was impressed to see, she's very involved with the writing for the songs. And she also was the producer for the album. So she is obviously much more than just a front person who sings. is very involved with the production and the writing, as I say. The subject matter, most of these are songs are about love. There's a couple of songs about hardship. There's one that I particularly enjoyed called Pearls, with a line, "There's a woman in Somalia," and about the life of an African woman that's particularly difficult. It's somewhat cliched, I think, with the words. I wouldn't say it's deep or something to get particularly excited about, but musically I really really like this. It's just got a real kind of smooth feel to it. A lot of people have described Sade's music as being jazz or jazz inspired. I think partly that's because a lot of the chords that are used are extended chords, which is a typical thing for being used in jazz. I would say it's groove music, really. But I really liked it. Do you know this album? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below there. And that's it from me for now.
There is a woman in Somalia scraping for pearls on the roadside. There's a force stronger than nature, keeps her will alive. This is how she's dying.